Hey, welcome to my talk. Today I'm going to talk about why, how, and when to productify your platform. And I want to talk about this because the term platform as a product is something that we hear all the time, but it's often hard to grasp and can be misunderstood. So today I'm going to talk about what it really means and how it's most likely relevant to you and your platform. So a little bit about my journey into platform engineering. I started with this a few years ago, where the customer I was working for needed someone to help them move away from an old school hosting solution where they used emails to provision VMs, and it could take up to a week to get what we needed. So obviously we needed something to change here, and I volunteered to look into that and started to dive into Kubernetes, Cert Manager, or Argo CD, GitOps, all of the buzzwords in the ecosystem, and found it really fun. And within a year, we had a pretty good foundation. So, along alongside this, I also started learning about platform engineering as a concept and as a theory, like the theoretical parts of it. And I read team topologies. I learned about the team, or the platform team there. I learned that there is a big socio-technical aspect to the discipline, and what was really cool about this journey was that I got to experience hands-on what I just read about, and I got to experiment with what I read. So that was really cool, and I think that supercharged the way I could work with platforms, and I started to really understand the concepts quite quickly, I think. But there was one thing that had really I had some I had trouble understanding and figuring out how to apply, and that was platform as a product, because again, it's something that I read all over the place, but I couldn't really find any concrete definition to exactly what it was and how to get started with it, etc. So, I mean, it did make some sense. The things that they talked about, where you look at the developers as internal customers, and where you know talk to them, and you create self-service tools. But those sounds to me like just common sense, right? Because self-service is something that enables fast flow and less friction, and scaling, and talking to the people that you're creating software for. Of course, you want to do that. So I didn't really understand why I would need this product focus. But then at some point it did dawn on me that thinking about platforms in terms of product is a way of shifting your mindset to focusing on focusing on technical implementations and like how you want to do it, and like with the architecture and all that, and rather focus on the needs, like why do you make it at all, or what is the reason you're doing this. And that put the components that I had already done, like self-service and user feedback, those were then just parts of a bigger picture and not isolated tasks. And it helped us understand why to do something, or why we did these things. And yeah, so that helped a lot. And also things that product development is something that has been around for a while. So there is a lot of theory here. So there's many techniques that you can use and leverage. But what are products? I'm going to talk a little bit about that. I'm not a product expert, but there are some key concepts that I find important in this context. So the first is that a product has a product market fit. You need to ensure that there is actually demand for your product, and that it's something that your customers value enough to pay for, so to speak. Next is a value proposition. It needs to be really clear why you do this. What need does it fill, and why does your offering suit this problem better than something that's already there? And the third thing is a product is very, very much connected to a need. So the needs they fill justify their existence. And if that need changes too much for the product to fill the need, or if the need just disappears overall, then the reason for the product to exist also disappears. So central to all of this is that focusing or thinking about products, you really focus on needs. So is products the right way to do this? The traditional way of doing software development is in projects, where projects are pre-planned to a large degree. They have a very set time scope and end date, after which who knows what happens to the software. And it focuses really on the technical implementation, how you think you want to do what you think needs to be done, right? Whereas products, on the other hand, they have a better fit, in my opinion, because iterative improvements are part of the nature. So doing something, getting feedback, changing your plan, changing your story, it's part of the concept of products. They have a lifespan, which means that even after creation, the the maintenance is part of the product itself. So it's always equally important. And they inherently focus on users and their needs. So platforms should follow this way of thinking, because all of these things, all of the characteristics of products and digital products are things that we need, or we know that we need to do platform development the right way. So over to how, and this is a tricky one. I remember when I started looking into this, I knew that platform as a product was something I wanted to do and needed to do. Everyone told me that, but I did not know sort of how to get there. But luckily, I worked at a place where the product mindset was really strong, and all of the software that was developed there was done using product development, and we had a lot of product managers. So what I did, I simply grabbed hold of one of these, found a product manager, and said, "Hey, I want to start develop our platform as a product. How do I start?" And what I learned was that there wasn't as big of a transformation or like a step that I thought it would be. I had the impression that you just need to do this and that, and then you're there, right? But it's rather a question of just doing product stuff. So, for example, be more mindful about how you gather info about your user needs, what your developers need. Um, have proper techniques to identify the workflows and value streams of the developing teams, and figure out how you can remove friction from these. And another thing is create proper feedback channel for your platform, because if you don't do this, then it's really easy that you tailor your platform to the most vocal enthusiasts. So we learned that it wasn't really that big of a stepping stone or like a threshold. It's just starting to think in terms of developing a product and doing that kind of stuff, and it would sort of come along the way. So it's more about continuous behavior. Now, doing this is really hard if the culture in your workplace is not the right one, like not generative, not supportive of iterative improvement, not supportive of doing stuff without having things really planned out beforehand. So it's absolutely easier to do it in that kind of environment. But of course, it's also possible that since you are one team, you can isolate yourself a little bit, but of course, you need to make sure that you involve the other development teams. And the reason why this is important is that platform development is much like a startup, because you are, as we discussed, you're creating a new product from scratch, and you need to iterate quickly. You need to get it out there and get proper feedback fast from real pilot customers. And I think that in a more old school mindset, more like enterprise mindset, it's really easy for the platform initiative to be creating an ivory tower where you spend 2 years creating something, even though it might be really great, but if you don't involve the other teams and get that sort of traction and buy-in, then it's really hard to get the adoption once the platform is complete, because they have no emotional investment in it, and they won't spend that time. So another thing that is worth mentioning is that if you are in an organization where that you don't have the ideal culture for this, you as a platform team, you're in a unique position to shape that culture, because you have this product that you want the other developers to use, but they don't have to. So the power dynamics is still non-threatening, which means that they will be open to what you have to say and show. And through that interaction with all of these themes, your way of working and your culture can rub off on them. So that's something that I've seen. It's really also very inspirational for the platform team to see that. So finally, when should you do this? The answer is actually right now. There's no reason to wait, because when I look back at how I did this with talking to the product manager, that was not something it's not something you need a certain maturity of your platform to benefit from. It's all about changing your mindset, starting doing smaller things, and then having the right mindset in how you do them, and so you know that you're doing them for first of all right away, and also gathering information in a more conscientious way. So it might also be that through this you learn that what is actually needed to be useful is way less than you think, because even though you plan to create a bigger, more comprehensive technical solution, maybe a checklist is, or just a list of things that are useful, or some kind of wiki to align on a certain level is a very good start. So yeah, this is something that also follows team topologies and what they call the thinnest viable platform. Another thing is that as soon as you engage the development teams, you create investment and shared ownership, and that will, of course, also improve your ability for them to adapt, or adoption. Yeah, it will. You will have an easier time getting them on board later, basically. So, one final thing is that you should hold off on the branding. The creating a name is very, very tempting to go straight for creating a name, a brand, stickers, plushies, all of that right away. But the thing is that setting that branding, it sets a delimitation line, because everyone involved before the branding, they're part of the creation of the platform and of the initiative, while afterwards there will be helping. So in the technology adoption graph from product development, you see there's a chasm where you have the early adopters on the left side and the majority or early majority on the right side. And the chasm is there because it's really hard to move over that, because there's always a group of people that are really, really interested in what you're doing and they want to get on board right away. So what you should do is to make sure that you find all these people and include them and make them feel like they're part of creating that initiative or creating your platform, and then have them also be part of the branding, maybe as like they can help with creating the logo or be part of the contest or whatever, something like that. So if you do that, then they will have a much more stronger ownership, and then they can be your champions and your evangelists when you try to move over to the early adopters. So that will be a really powerful thing, I think. Okay, that's all I had. Thank you so much for watching. And if you want to connect, I'm on Blue Sky and LinkedIn. And I hope that you find some way to apply this to your context and your platform. Thank you so much.